The grainy CCTV footage flickers, revealing a dimly lit train platform. Dozens of students mill about, their chatter filled with excitement for the overnight field trip. The train hisses impatiently. Amidst the sea of faces, the camera zooms in on one in particular, 16-year-old Mia Calder, her smile bright yet tinged with nervousness as she glances back at her mother one last time before stepping onto the train. The doors slide shut with an ominous thud. Little did Mia know, it would be 18 years before she'd set foot on that platform again. Rewind to 2 weeks earlier. Mia sits in her living room, hunched over a permission slip, her pen hovering hesitantly over the signature line. Her mother Valerie enters, wiping her hands on her apron. "What's that, sweetheart?" Valerie asks, peering over Mia's shoulder. "It's for the overnight field trip to the capital," Mia explains, a hopeful lilt in her voice. "Everyone in my civics. Class is going. I'd be the only one left behind if I don't." Valerie's brow furrows. "I don't know, Mia. An overnight trip without any parents? It makes me nervous. But Mom, the teachers will be there the whole time. And it's a great opportunity to see the government in action. Please?" Mia's blue eyes widen imploringly. Valerie sighs, her resolve wavering. "Let me think about it, okay? I just want you to be safe." Mia nods, trying to hide her disappointment as she tucks the permission slip into her folder. But inside, a flicker of determination ignites. One way or another, she silently vows, she'd be on that train. The days tick by, filled with hushed phone calls as Mia pleads her case to her father, long divorced from Valerie and living 2 states away. Mia's hopes lift as she hears her dad's encouragement, how he thinks the trip could be great for her. Armed with his approval, she presents the permission slip to her mom once more. Valerie's pen hovers over the page, conflict etched in the lines of her face. Her instinct warns against it, but seeing the desperate optimism shining in Mia's eyes, she finally relents. With a heavy stroke, she signs on the line, unaware of the irrevocable consequences that single action will set in motion. The morning of the trip dawns cold and gray. Mia shivers on the platform, her breath fogging in the chill air as she hugs her mother goodbye. Valerie's arms linger around her daughter, some primal part of her reluctant to let go. "You call me as soon as you get there, understand?" Valerie says, her tone edged with worry. "I will, Mom, I promise," Mia assures, trying to extricate herself as her classmates begin to board. With a final squeeze, Valerie releases her, watching as Mia bounds up the metal steps and disappears inside the train. The doors hiss shut, and the engine groans to life, the train slowly pulling away from the platform. Mia finds her seat, stowing her backpack overhead before settling in by the window. As the city slides by outside, gradually giving way to sloping hills and dense forest, an uneasy feeling settles into her stomach. She tries to shrug it off as pre-trip jitters, but she can't shake the sense of something ominous lurking on the horizon. Hours slip by, the sky outside darkening as evening falls. The chatter of her classmates gradually quiets, giving way to the hypnotic rumble of the train as it wanes through the mountains. Mia dozes fitfully, her sleep disturbed by strange dreams of shadowy figures and distant screams. She jolts awake to sudden, jarring stillness. The train has stopped, the silence that floods the cabin oddly oppressive. Mia blinks groggy, peering out the window into the inky night. They're in a tunnel, the glass reflecting only her own pale face. Unease prickles along Mia's spine as the minutes stretch on with no sign of movement. A baby cries somewhere further down the train, the sound unsettling in the heavy quiet. Suddenly, the carriage plunges into total darkness. Gasps and frightened yelps echo in the blackness, quickly drowned out by a much more terrifying sound. The metallic shriek of the rear door being wrenched open, followed by the unmistakable thunder of gunfire. Screams erupt as chaos descends, students stampeding blindly in the dark. Mia finds herself knocked to the floor, trampled beneath the panic. She curls into a ball, her heart slamming against her ribs as heavy footfalls storm down the aisle. Rough hands seize her arms, hauling her to her feet. A beam of light slices through the darkness, illuminating a masked face mere inches from her own. Mia's scream catches in her throat as the cold press of a gun barrel kisses her temple. "Make a sound and you're dead," a gravelly voice hisses in her ear. "Now move." The barrel of the gun digs painfully into Mia's back as she's roughly shoved forward, stumbling over unseen obstacles in the darkness. Around her, she can hear the whimpers and cries of her classmates, the shuffling of feet as they're herded like frightened cattle. A sharp crack rings out, followed by a thud and a wail of pain. "Shut up and keep moving," a harsh voice commands. Mia flinches, bile rising in her throat. She wants to scream, to fight, to run, but the cold steel against her spine keeps her paralyzed, compliant. They're forced out of the train, the icy night air stinging Mia's cheeks. The ground beneath her feet is uneven, rocky. She squints into the darkness, trying to make out their surroundings, but all she can see are the shadowy outlines of trees and the faint glimmer of stars above. "On your knees, hands behind your heads." Mia complies, her heart hammering as she sinks to the cold ground. Beside her, she can feel the trembling of her classmates, hear their ragged breaths clouding the air. A beam of light rakes over them, pausing on each terrified face. 47, a voice reports. "We're 3 short." "Leave 'em," another replies gruffly. "We've got more than enough." Mia's mind reels. More than enough for what? Icy tendrils of fear curl around her heart as the horrifying possibilities swirl in her mind. Ransom, trafficking, worse. Rough hands yank her to her feet once more, a coarse rope biting into her wrists as she's bound. A blindfold is tied tightly over her eyes, plunging her into complete darkness. She's shoved forward, stumbling blindly, the ground sloping steeply beneath her feet. Time seems to warp and stretch, minutes bleeding into hours as they march through the night. Mia's legs burn with exhaustion, her throat parched and raw. She tries to keep track of the turns, the changes in terrain, but soon loses all sense of direction. Finally, they stop. Mia hears the creak of rusty hinges, the thud of heavy doors. They're shoved forward once more, the air around them suddenly dank and still. A cellar, maybe, or a bunker. The blindfold is ripped away, and Mia blinks in the sudden glare of harsh fluorescent light. They're in a large, bare room, the walls and floor rough concrete. There are no windows, no furniture save for a few stained mattresses shoved against the far wall. The door slams shut with a clang of finality, the sound of a heavy bolt sliding into place. For a moment, no one moves, a tableau of shocked, pale faces. Then, like a dam bursting, the tears come. Sobs rack the room as the reality of their situation crashes over them. They cling to each other, seeking comfort, seeking answers where there are none. Mia hugs her knees to her chest, hot tears streaming down her cheeks. She thinks of her mother, of the worry that will crease her brow when Mia doesn't call as promised. She imagines her voice, rising in panic as the hours tick by with no word. Will they search for them? Will they find them? The questions spin in her mind, unanswerable and tormenting. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months. The room becomes their world, their prison. Food is shoved through a slot in the door, meager and barely sustaining. They take turns pounding on the walls, screaming until their voices give out, but no one ever comes. Despair becomes a living thing, a specter that haunts their every waking moment. Some retreat into themselves, catatonic and unresponsive. Others cling to fragile threads of hope, whispering prayers and fantasies of rescue. Mia loses track of the sunrises and sunsets, the passage of time marked only by the growth of her hair, the hollowing of her cheeks. She clings to memories of her old life, her family, using them as a talisman against the encroaching darkness. But as the months stretch into years, even those memories begin to fade, worn thin by the relentless passage of time. Mia looks around at the pale, gaunt faces of her classmates, barely recognizable now, and wonders if she too has become a ghost, a faded imprint of the girl who boarded that train a lifetime ago. 18 birthdays pass in the darkness, unmarked and uncelebrated. 18 years of stolen youth, of dreams deferred and hopes slowly extinguished. The world beyond their concrete tomb moves on, forgetting, while they remain frozen in amber, forever the lost class of Shadowville High. Until one day, the unthinkable happens. The heavy metal door swings open with a groan, a sound so unfamiliar it takes a moment for Mia to register what it means. She blinks against the sudden shaft of light that pierces the gloom, her eyes watering at the brightness. A figure steps into the room, silhouetted against the glare. Mia tenses, bracing for the rough hands, the barked orders that have been their only human contact for so long. But the voice that speaks is soft, almost gentle. Oh my God. They're here. They're alive. The words are like a foreign language, incomprehensible. Mia stares uncomprehendingly as more figures flood into the room, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. This is the Shadowville PD. We're here to help you. The name of her hometown jolts through Mia like an electric shock. Shadowville. The word conjures a flood of memories, tree-lined streets. The smell of her mother's perfume, the feel of her favorite sweater, a lifetime ago. Around her, her classmates are stirring, blinking owlishly in the light. Some shrink back against the walls, cowering, while others stumble forward, their hands outstretched like sleepwalkers. You're safe now, the first voice says, choked with emotion. You're going home. Home. The word is like a key turning in a rusted lock, a door creaking open on a room long sealed. Mia feels something crack open inside her chest, a dam bursting. Tears stream down her face as she staggers forward into the waiting arms of her rescuers. The next hours pass in a blur of flashing lights, sterile hospital rooms, and endless questions. Mia sits in a daze as detectives gently probe for details. Doctors check her vital signs, and trauma counselors murmur soothing words. She learns in bits and pieces what has happened in the world outside while they were locked away. 18 years have passed. Her classmates' names and faces had faded from news headlines, replaced by new tragedies, new mysteries. The world had moved on while they remained frozen in time. But their families, their loved ones, they had never stopped searching, never given up hope. It was a small, seemingly insignificant detail that had finally cracked the case, an old train ticket, suddenly reprinting itself from a long-dormant system, setting off a chain reaction of investigation that led to this moment. Mia's heart pounds as she thinks of her mother, of the reunion that awaits her. She tries to picture Valerie's face, but the image is hazy, blurred by time and trauma. What will she look like now? Will she even recognize her own daughter? A commotion in the hallway jolts Mia from her thoughts. She looks up to see a woman burst into the room, her face lined and careworn but achingly familiar. Mia? Oh God, Mia ... Valerie's voice breaks on a sob as she lunges forward, gathering Mia into her arms with a force that almost knocks the breath from her lungs. Mia stiffens for a moment, overwhelmed, before melting into the embrace, inhaling the scent of her mother's hair, the warmth of her skin. They cling to each other, rocking back and forth as the tears flow unchecked. For a moment, the years melt away, and Mia is once again that 16-year-old girl, safe in her mother's arms. But even as the joy of reunion washes over her, questions burn in Mia's mind. Who had taken them? Why? What had happened to their abductors? She pulls back, searching her mother's face. Mom, what ... how ... She struggles to form the words, her tongue clumsy with disuse. Valerie strokes her hair, her eyes shimmering with tears. Baby, there'll be time for all that later. Right. Now let's just get you home. Home. The word echoes in Mia's mind as she allows herself to be led from the room, leaning heavily on her mother's arm. She knows that the road ahead will be long and hard, that the scars of the past 18 years will not be easily erased. But for now, for this moment, she lets herself sink into the warmth of her mother's love, the promise of a future she had long given up on. The nightmare is over. She is going home. Little does she know, the real nightmare is just beginning. The walls of Mia's childhood bedroom are exactly as she remembers them, a faded collage of boy band posters and Polaroid snapshots. But as she sits on the edge of her bed, the pastel comforter clutched between her fingers, everything feels alien, unfamiliar. It's been a week since her rescue, a week of tearful reunions, police interviews, and sleepless nights haunted by memories she can't escape. The media circus outside has finally begun to die down, the reporters and camera crews drifting away in search of fresher tragedies. But for Mia, the real struggle is just beginning. She feels like a stranger in her own skin, a ghost haunting the halls of a life she no longer recognizes. The simple routines of daily life, showering, dressing, eating at a table, feel like a foreign language, the customs of a country she's never visited. Her mother hovers anxiously, torn between the desire to cuddle and the fear of overwhelming her. Mia catches her sometimes, watching with a look of pained uncertainty, as if trying to reconcile this haunted young woman with the bright-eyed teenager who'd stepped onto that train. Mia knows she should feel grateful, relieved. But all she feels is numb, disconnected. The world has moved on without her, and she doesn't know how to catch up. Her old friends, the ones who used to fill her days with laughter and gossip, are strangers now, their lives filled with careers, marriages, children. The chasm between them feels unbridgeable. Even her own face in the mirror is unrecognizable, gaunt and hollow-eyed. She avoids looking too closely, afraid of what she might see lurking in the depths of her own gaze. The nights are the worst. In the darkness, the memories come flooding back, the stench of fear, the crack of fists against flesh, the endless, suffocating hopelessness. She wakes screaming, clawing at phantom hands, her sheets drenched in icy sweat. During the day, she pores obsessively over news articles, police reports, anything she can find about the investigation. She learns in fragments the story of what happened, how a chance reprinting of an old ticket had led to the discovery of a network of underground bunkers, of shadowy figures with ties to human trafficking and illegal organ harvesting. But so many questions remain unanswered. Who was behind it all? What was the endgame, and most hauntingly, why them? Why her class on that day, on that train? The police assure her they're doing everything they can, that the investigation is ongoing. But Mia can see the weariness in their eyes, the unspoken acknowledgement that after so many years, the trail has long gone cold. As the days stretch into weeks, Mia feels a restlessness growing inside her, a desperate need for answers, for closure. She starts to withdraw, spending hours locked in her room, scouring the internet for clues, for any scrap of information that might shed light on the dark years of her captivity. Her mother pleads with her to rest, to heal, but Mia can't. She feels like a live wire, crackling with a manic energy she can barely contain. Sleep eludes her, food tastes like ashes in her mouth. One night, as she sits hunched over her laptop, a message pings into her inbox. The sender is anonymous, the subject line blank. With trembling fingers, Mia clicks it open. "You don't know the whole story," it reads. "Meet me at the old train station at midnight. Come alone. Tell no one." Mia's heart pounds as she stares at the glowing screen. Every instinct screams at her to delete the message, to block the sender, and pretend she never saw it. But beneath the fear, a flicker of desperate hope ignites, answers. the promise of truth, of finally understanding the nightmare that has consumed half her life. Can she turn her back on that? Before she can second-guess herself, Mia is up and moving, pulling on her coat with shaking hands. She slips out the back door, careful not to wake her mother, and melts into the shadows of the night. As she makes her way through the sleeping streets of Shadowville, Mia feels a sense of grim determination settling over her. Come what may, she will have her answers, no matter the cost. The old train station looms out of the darkness, a hulking skeleton of rusted metal and shattered glass. Mia's footsteps echo on the cracked pavement as she approaches, every nerve stretched taut as a wire. A figure steps out from behind a crumbling pillar, face obscured by a dark hood. Mia tenses, her fists clenching at her sides. Who are you? She demands, her voice shaking only slightly. What do you want? The figure reaches up, slowly pushing back the hood. The face that emerges from the shadows is painfully familiar, a ghost from a lifetime ago. Hello, Mia, the man says softly. It's been a long time. Mia stares in shock, her mind reeling as she tries to reconcile the face before her with the jumbled memories of her past. The man is older, his hair graying at the temples, his face lined and weathered, but there's no mistaking those piercing blue eyes, that jagged scar bisecting his left eyebrow. Mr. Gregory? She whispers, the name feeling strange and heavy on her tongue. Her former teacher, the man who had vanished along with them on that fateful day, presumed dead or complicit in their abduction. The police had always considered him a prime suspect, but no concrete evidence had ever emerged. He nods slowly, a sad smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I know you must have questions, Mia, and I promise I'll answer them all. But we can't talk here. It's not safe. Mia feels a surge of anger, hot and sudden. Not safe? What do you know about safe? You disappeared, left us there to rot. Give me one good reason why I should trust you now. Mr. Gregory sighs, running a hand over his face. He looks exhausted, haunted. I didn't have a choice, Mia. They had my family, my wife and daughter. I did what I had to do to keep them safe, just like you did what you had to do to survive. Mia flinches at that, memories of dark, desperate times flickering unbidden through her mind. The things she'd done, the parts of herself she'd sacrificed just to see another sunrise. Please, Mia, Mr. Gregory pleads, his voice cracking. I know I have no right to ask for your trust, but if you want the truth, the whole truth, you need to come with me, now. Mia hesitates, torn. Every instinct screams at her to run, to put as much distance as possible between herself and this ghost from her past. But beneath the fear and anger, there's a desperate, clawing need to understand, to make sense of the nightmare that has defined her life. Fine, she says finally, her voice hard. But if this is some kind of trick... Mr. Gregory shakes his head vehemently. No tricks, just the truth. I swear it. He leads her to a nondescript car parked behind the station, holding the passenger door open for her. Mia slides in warily, every muscle tense as he takes his place behind the wheel and pulls out onto the empty road. They drive in silence for what feels like hours, the city lights fading behind them as they wind their way into the mountains. Finally, Mr. Gregory pulls off onto a dirt track, following it deep into the woods until they reach a small, run-down cabin nestled among the trees. Inside, the cabin is sparsely furnished but clean, a fire crackling in the hearth. Mr. Gregory gestures for Mia to take a seat at the rough-hewn table, then settles heavily across from her. I suppose I should start at the beginning, he says, his eyes distant. The school, the trip... Auto is all a front. A way to get access to the students. Mia feels a chill run down her spine. Access for what? For the organization, Mr. Gregory says, the word heavy with dread. A group of very powerful, very dangerous people. They had their hooks in everything, politicians, law enforcement, the media. And they had a very specific interest in young, healthy bodies. Mia's stomach turns, bile rising in her throat. The organ harvesting, Mr. Gregory nods grimly. Among other things, they saw your class as the perfect opportunity. Young, fit, unlikely to be missed. They had it all planned out, the fake field trip, the train, breakdown, the abduction. And they needed an inside man. Someone the students would trust. You, Mia whispers, the pieces slowly clicking into place. Me, Mr. Gregory agrees, his voice heavy with self-loathing. They threatened my family, said they'd kill them if I didn't cooperate. I thought ... I thought maybe I could protect you all, somehow. Minimize the damage, but it all went wrong so fast. He tells her then of those first chaotic hours, the terror and confusion, the brutality of their captors. How he'd tried to keep the students calm, to shield them as much as he could. But in the end, he was just one man, powerless against the machinations of the organization. I tried to get word out, to leave clues, he says, his hands clenching on the tabletop. But they were always one step ahead. Every time I thought I'd found a way, they'd cut me off. It was like fighting a hydra cut off one head, two more would take its place. Mia listens in growing horror, her mind reeling. All this time, all these years, she'd thought their abduction was random, senseless. But to learn it was planned, orchestrated by shadowy figures with agendas she can barely comprehend. Why are you telling me this now? She asks finally, her voice rough. After all this time? Mr. Gregory leans forward, his eyes intense. Because it's not over, Mia. The organization, the people behind all this, they're still out there. And they're not happy about your rescue, about the attention it's bringing. They'll want to tie up loose ends. A chill runs through Mia, a dark foreboding. Loose ends, you mean us? The survivors? Mr. Gregory nods grimly. And anyone else who starts digging too deep. Investigators, journalists, even family members. No one is safe. Mia feels a sudden desperate urgency rising in her chest. We have to tell someone, go to the police ... But Mr. Gregory is already shaking his head. The police won't be able to protect you, Mia. The organization's reach goes too high, too deep. The only way to stay safe is to stay hidden, to disappear. Disappear? Mia echoes, disbelief coloring her tone. For how long? As long as it takes, Mr. Gregory says softly. Until we can find a way to bring them down, once and for all. Mia stares at him, her mind spinning. Disappear, go into hiding, leave behind the life she's only just started to reclaim. The idea is terrifying, unfathomable. But even as she opens her mouth to protest, a memory flashes through her mind, the glint of light on a knife, the hot splash of blood on her face, the animal terror of knowing she was one breath away from death. In that moment, she knows Mr. Gregory is right. The nightmare isn't over. It's only just beginning. Okay, she says finally, her voice barely above a whisper. What do I need to do? The plan Mr. Gregory lays out is simple, yet daunting. Mia is to disappear, to sever all ties with her old life and start anew under a false identity. He hands her a stack of documents, a birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, all bearing a name that is not her own. Amanda. Novak, she reads aloud, testing the unfamiliar syllables on her tongue. Who is she? She's you, Mr. Gregory says softly. Or she will be once we're done. The next hours are a crash course in deception, in the art of becoming someone else. Mr. Gregory coaches her on her new backstory, drilling her on the details until she can recite them in her sleep. Amanda Novak, 25, born in Chicago, a freelance graphic designer with a penchant for travel and a tragic past she rarely speaks of. He gives her a burner phone, pre-programmed with a single number. For emergencies only, he stresses. Every contact is a risk. Mia nods, her head spinning. It all feels like a bizarre dream, a spy movie come to life. But the fear that thrums beneath her skin is all too real. What about my mom? She asks suddenly, her heart clenching. I can't just disappear. She'll be devastated. Mr. Gregory's face softens with sympathy. I know it's hard, Mia, but the more she knows, the more danger she's in. The best way to protect her is to let her go. Tears sting Mia's eyes, but she blinks them back fiercely. She knows he's right, even as every fiber of her being rebels against the idea. Dawn is breaking as they finally leave the cabin. The first tentative fingers of light creeping through the trees. Mr. Gregory drives her to a bus station 2 towns over, pressing a thick envelope into her hands as she prepares to board. This should be enough to get you started, he says. Cash only from here on out, no credit cards or bank accounts. Anything that can be traced. Mia nods, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. Where will I go? Somewhere big, crowded. Easy to get lost in. Chicago, New York, LA. Trust your instincts, but never let your guard down. He hesitates, then pulls her into a quick, fierce hug. Be safe, Mia. And remember, you're not alone. There are others out there, like us. Maybe one day ... He doesn't finish the thought, but Mia understands. One day, when this is all over, when the shadow of the organization no longer hangs over them, maybe then they can find each other again, piece together some kind of life from the shattered remains. But that day feels impossibly distant as she boards the bus, finding a seat near the back and hunching down into her coat. She watches through the window as Mr. Gregory recedes into the distance, until he's nothing more than a speck on the horizon. Then she turns her face forward to the unknown road ahead and tries to breathe past the tightness in her chest. Amanda Novak, she tells herself firmly. My name is Amanda Novak. The miles slide by in a blur of highway signs and rest stops, the bus carrying her ever further from the only life she's ever known. Mia, no, Amanda, keeps to herself, speaking only when spoken to, always on guard for any sign of danger. Days turn into weeks as she drifts from city to city, never staying in one place for long. She takes odd jobs where she can find them. Waitressing, dog walking, anything that pays cash under the table. She sleeps in cheap motels, eats from vending machines and fast food joints. It's a lonely, transient existence, but slowly, Amanda begins to settle into the rhythm of it. She learns to trust her instincts, to read the currents of a crowd, to spot the subtle signs that someone might not be what they seem. But even as she hones her skills, the past never seems far behind. She wakes in the night with her heart pounding, the echoes of old terrors ringing in her ears. She finds herself scanning faces in the street, searching for glimpses of her old classmates, her old life. And always, always the shadow of the organization looms, a constant prickling at the back of her neck. She knows they're out there, searching for her, for any sign of the lost class of Shadowville High. The burner phone becomes her lifeline, her one tenuous connection to a world she can never fully rejoin. She checks it obsessively, waiting for the call, the message that will tell her it's safe to come home. But the phone stays silent, and the weeks stretch into months, into years. Amanda begins to wonder if this is all there will ever be. A half-life lived in the shadows, always looking over her shoulder, never truly free. Until one day, 3 years to the day since she boarded that fateful bus, the phone finally rings. Amanda stares at it, her heart in her throat, hardly daring to believe it. With trembling fingers, she accepts the call, pressing the phone to her ear. Hello? She whispers, her voice rusty from disuse. There's a pause, a crackle of static. Then a voice she never thought she'd hear again, a voice from a lifetime ago. Mia, is that you? It's me. Audrey. Audrey? Amanda breathes, hardly daring to believe it. How? Where are you? Are you okay? A choked laugh comes down the line, half sob, half relief. I'm okay. I'm safe. For now. But Mia, listen. There's something you need to know. Amanda listens, her heart pounding, as Audrey spills out a tale of secrets and shadows. She learns that Audrey, like her, has been living under an assumed identity, moving from place to place, always one step ahead of the organization's reach. But Audrey has been busy too, digging, searching, piecing together the scraps of the truth behind their abduction, and what she's found. It goes deeper than we ever imagined, Mia, Audrey says, her voice taut with barely suppressed anger. The organization, the people behind it. They're not just criminals. They're in the government, the corporations, even the fucking charities. It's a web, a system, and we were just flies caught in it. Amanda feels a chill run down her spine, a sickening sense of the ground giving way beneath her feet. All this time, all these years of running and hiding, and for what? To be pawns in a game so vast, so insidious, that she can barely wrap her mind around. It? What do we do? She whispers, hating the tremble in her voice. How do we fight something like that? We find each other, Audrey says firmly. All of us, the survivors. We pool what we know, we watch each other's backs. And we start to push back. It feels like an impossible task, a David and Goliath battle on a scale she can hardly fathom. But beneath the fear, Amanda feels a flicker of something else, a fierce, burning determination. They've taken so much from her already, her youth, her innocence, her very identity. She won't let them take her future too. Tell me what you need me to do, she says, her voice steady. In the weeks that follow, Amanda throws herself into the task with a single-minded focus. She reaches out to the other survivors, one by one, using the encrypted channels Audrey provides. They come from all walks of life now, a lawyer in Seattle, a mechanic in Dallas, a teacher in Miami. But beneath the surface, they are bound by the same scars, the same unrelenting hunger for the truth. They work in secret, meeting in dark alleys and seedy motel rooms, sharing what scraps of information they've managed to gather. It's like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle in the dark, each piece hard-won and precious. But slowly, painstakingly, a picture begins to emerge of a vast, sprawling conspiracy, reaching into the highest echelons of power, of backroom deals and black market auctions, where human lives are traded like cattle, of a rot so deep and pervasive that it takes Amanda's breath away. They learn of other victims, too, other busloads of children who vanished into the night, their fates unknown. They find whispers of a place called The Farm, a shadowy compound where the trafficked and disappeared are said to be held. But the location is a closely guarded secret, and any who come close to uncovering it have a habit of meeting grim and untimely ends. It's a dangerous game they're playing, and Amanda knows it. She sees the toll it takes on the others, the long silences, the 1,000-yard stares, the way they jump at sudden noises. They're all soldiers in a war they never asked to fight, scarred and battle-weary, but driven by a force greater than themselves. But even as they inch closer to the truth, the noose begins to tighten. There are close calls, narrow escapes. They lose contact with one of their own, a hacker named Jace, and can only assume the worst. Amanda starts to feel eyes on her back, shadows in her peripheral vision. She knows it's only a matter of time before the organization catches up to them. It all comes to a head on a rainy night in Chicago, in a dingy warehouse on the outskirts of the city. They're meeting to plan their next move, to discuss a promising new lead on the farm's location. But as Amanda approaches the building, she feels a prickle of unease, a sense of something not quite right. She's just reaching for the door handle when it bursts open, a dark figure lunging out at her. Amanda reacts on instinct, years of self-defense training kicking in. She twists, using her attacker's momentum against them, sending them crashing to the ground. But there are more of them, pouring out of the shadows like cockroaches. Amanda fights like a cornered animal, all snarling fury and desperate strikes. But there are too many, and she's only one. A blow to the head sends her reeling, her vision flickering. She feels rough hands on her arms, dragging her forward. Through the haze of pain, she hears a voice, cold and mocking. "Hello, Mia. Or should I say Amanda? You've led us on quite the chase." She forces her eyes open, blinking away the blood. The face that swims into view is unfamiliar, but the eyes, those cold, dead eyes, she'd know them anywhere. "You," she spits, tasting copper. "You're one of them. The organization." The man smiles, a shark's grin. "Oh, I'm much more than that, my dear. I'm the one who's been pulling the strings all along. And now at last, I have you right where I want you." He leans in close, his breath hot and fetid against her cheek. "It's time to come home, Mia. Back to where you belong. Back to the farm." And as the blow falls, as the darkness rushes up to claim her, Amanda's last thought is of Audrey, of Mr. Gregory, of all the broken souls bound together by this twisted web. "Hold on," she thinks desperately, as consciousness slips away. "I'm coming. We're coming for you all." Amanda wakes to darkness and pain, her head throbbing in time with her pulse. For a moment, she's back in that bunker, 15 and terrified, waiting for the next horror to walk through the door. But as her eyes adjust, she realizes she's somewhere else entirely. She's lying on a cold concrete floor, the rough surface biting into her cheek. The room is small, bare, with walls of crumbling cinder block. A single flickering bulb hangs from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows across the space. Amanda tries to sit up and immediately regrets it as a wave of nausea washes over her. Her hands are bound behind her back, the rope cutting into her wrists. She can taste blood in her mouth, feel it crusting on her chin. Footsteps echo outside the door, and Amanda tenses, bracing herself. The door swings open with a rusty creak, and a figure steps into the room. It's the man from the warehouse, the one with the dead eyes and shark's grin. "Ah, you're awake," he says, his voice falsely pleasant. "Excellent. We have so much to discuss, you and I." Amanda glares at him, putting every ounce of defiance she can muster into her gaze. "Go to hell." The man tuts, shaking his head. Now, Mia, is that any way to speak to an old friend?" "You're no friend of mine," Amanda spits. "You're a monster." The man's smile widens, and there's something truly unsettling about it, something inhuman. "Monster savior, it's all a matter of perspective, my dear. What you see is cruelty. I see as necessity. Sacrifice for the greater good." He crouches down beside her, his eyes glittering in the dim light. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into, do you? The scale of it, the scope. You think you and your little band of survivors can make a difference? You're like ants, scurrying around underfoot, blind to the boot that's about to crush you." Amanda feels a chill run down her spine, a sickening sense of dread. "What are you talking about?" The man stands, pacing the small room. "The organization, as you call it, is so much more than a simple trafficking ring. We are the future, Mia, the vanguard of a new world order. And you ... you and your kind are the key to it all." He turns to her, his expression almost rapturous. "The perfect specimens, young and strong and resilient, the ideal vessels for our work. With your bodies, your organs, your very essence ... We can extend life, transcend death. Imagine it, Mia. A world where the chosen few can live forever, their minds and memories preserved for eternity. And all it takes is a little sacrifice." Amanda feels bile rise in her throat, horror and revulsion twisting her gut. "You're insane," she whispers. "You're fucking insane." The man just smiles, a serene, almost beatific expression. "I am a visionary, Mia. And you are my canvas, my masterpiece." He reaches out, his fingers brushing her cheek, and Amanda recoils as if burned. The man's touch is ice cold, corpse-like. "Take her to the lab," he says over his shoulder, and Amanda realizes with a start that there are others in the room, hulking figures in dark uniforms. It's time to begin the procedure. Rough hands seize her, dragging her to her feet. Amanda thrashes, kicks, screams, but it's like fighting against stone. She's dragged down a long sterile hallway, past door after closed door. The air smells of antiseptic and something else, something cloying and sickly sweet. They emerge into a vast cavernous space, all gleaming metal and harsh white light. There are tables, gurneys, arrayed in neat rows, each one occupied by a still, silent figure. Amanda's heart seizes as she recognizes the faces, pale and waxen in death. Her classmates, the other survivors, laid out like dissection specimens. And there, at the center of it all, is a chair. A monstrous contraption of steel and leather, bristling with straps and electrodes and gleaming, wicked-looking instruments. "No," Amanda whispers, her voice cracking with terror. "No, please ... But there's no mercy in the faces of her captors. No hint of humanity. They force her into the chair, strapping her down with brutal efficiency. Amanda can feel the bite of the restraints, the cold kiss of metal against her skin. The man with the dead eyes looms over her, his face a mask of eager anticipation. "Don't be afraid, Mia," he says softly, almost tenderly. "This is your destiny, your purpose. You're going to help us change the world." He reaches out, and Amanda feels a sharp, stinging pain in the crook of her arm. A wave of icy cold washes through her veins, and the world begins to blur at the edges. As the darkness rushes up to claim her, Amanda hears the man's voice, distant and echoing. "Welcome to your new life, Mia. Welcome ... to immortality." Darkness, pain, a screaming void where once there was light, sensation, self. Amanda drifts, untethered, lost in a sea of shadow and fragmented memory. Time loses all meaning in this place, seconds stretching into eternity, eons passing in the space of a heartbeat. She is everywhere and nowhere, a consciousness scattered across a vast, empty expanse. But then, slowly, sensation begins to return. A tingling in her fingertips, a weight in her limbs. A rhythmic beeping, distant and muffled, like a metronome setting the tempo of her reawakening. Amanda forces her eyes open, blinking against the harsh fluorescent glare. She's lying in a bed, stiff white sheets tucked around her chin. There are wires, tubes, snaking from her arms, her chest, connecting her to softly humming machines. A hospital. But how ... Memory. Comey's rushing back, a tidal wave of horror and confusion. The warehouse, the man with the dead eyes, the chair. The lab with its grim tableau of corpses. And then ... nothing. A yawning black hole where her mind should be. Amanda tries to sit up, panic clawing at her throat, but her body feels heavy, unresponsive. She manages a feeble twitch, a moan slipping past her cracked lips. Instantly, there's a flurry of movement at her bedside. Faces swim into view, blurred and indistinct. Voices murmur, soft and soothing. "Easy, Mia. You're safe now. You're in the hospital." That voice. Amanda blinks, forcing the world into focus. And there, impossibly, is a face she never thought she'd see again. "Mr. Gregory?" She croaks, her voice a rusty whisper. Her old teacher smiles, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Welcome back, Mia. We thought we'd lost you." Questions swirl in Amanda's mind, a maelstrom of confusion and disbelief. How? What happened? The others ... the lab ... Mr. Gregory's face darkens, a shadow passing over his features. "We found you," he says softly. "Your friends, Audrey and the others. They tracked you to that place, that abomination of a facility. They called me in, along with every law enforcement contact I had, It was close, Mia. Too damn close. Amanda feels a chill run through her, a sickening sense of dread. The others, she whispers. In the lab, are they? Mr. Gregory shakes his head, his expression grim. Some, he says quietly. The ones they hadn't processed yet. But the rest, double quotes, he trails off, and Amanda feels a wave of grief, of rage, rise up to choke her. Tears sting her eyes, hot and bitter. And the man? She asks, her voice shaking. The one in charge? Mr. Gregory's jaw tightens, a vein pulsing in his temple. Dead, he says flatly. Shot while trying to escape. But Mia ... He was just the tip of the iceberg. What we found in that place, the records, the files. It goes so much deeper than we ever imagined. Amanda closes her eyes, feeling the weight of it all pressed down on her chest. The scale of the horror, the enormity of the loss, it's too much, too big to comprehend. But beneath the grief, the trauma, there's something else. A small, stubborn flicker of light in the darkness, hope. We got them, didn't we? She whispers, opening her eyes. We exposed them, we shut them down. Mr. Gregory nods, a fierce pride shining in his gaze. We did, he says softly. You did. Mia, you and your friends, you were so damn brave, all of you. You never gave up, never stopped fighting. And because of that, because of you, countless lives will be saved. The world will know the truth. Amanda feels a sob build in her throat, a strange mixture of sorrow and relief. It's over. The long nightmare, the endless running and hiding and fighting, it's finally, truly over. But even as she thinks it, she knows it's not quite true. The scars remain, the memories, the empty spaces where lost friends should be. That kind of wound, it never really heals. You just learn to live with the ache. In the days and weeks that follow, as Amanda slowly regains her strength, she begins to piece together the full story. The organization, she learns, was not just a trafficking ring, but a vast, insidious conspiracy, its tendrils reaching into every corner of society. Governments, corporations, even humanitarian aid groups, all of them infiltrated, corrupted, bent to serve a shadowy agenda. And at the heart of it all, a cabal of the wealthy and powerful, men and women who saw themselves as gods above the laws of morality and decency, who viewed human life as a commodity to be bought, sold, and harvested for their own twisted ends. It's a staggering revelation, a truth almost too terrible to bear, but bear it they must, Amanda knows. Because the alternative, ignorance, complacency, surrender, is unthinkable. And so, as she heals, as she reunites with the other survivors, the scarred, broken, indomitable remnants of the lost class of Shadowville High, Amanda makes a vow. To live, to thrive, to never let the darkness claim her again. To be a light, a beacon, for all those still trapped in the shadows. It won't be easy, she knows. The road ahead is long and uncertain, the wounds of the past still raw and aching. But she's not alone, not anymore. She has her friends, her fellow warriors, bound by a bond deeper than blood. And she has herself, Amanda Novak, forged in the crucible of suffering and survival. A survivor, a fighter, a woman who knows, now and forever, that the only way to defeat the monsters ... is to never stop fighting. The sun is setting over the hills of Shadowville, painting the sky in streaks of orange and gold. Amanda stands at the edge of the old train platform, her hair ruffling in the warm breeze. The platform is empty, silent, a relic of a bygone era. But to Amanda, it will always be hallowed ground. The place where it all began, all those years ago. The place that set her on the path to hell. And ultimately, to redemption. She turns at the sound of footsteps, a smile tugging at her lips as a familiar figure approaches. Audrey, her dark hair now shot through with strands of silver, her face lined with the marks of hard-won wisdom. "I thought I might find you here," Audrey says softly, coming to stand beside her. "Today of all days." Amanda nods, her throat tight. With emotion, 23 years, she murmurs. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago, and sometimes ... Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Audrey finishes, her eyes distant. "I know. Believe me, I know." They stand in silence for a long moment, each lost in their own memories, the horror, the heartbreak, but also the moments of courage, of connection, of unbreakable human spirit. "I got a call from Jace yesterday," Audrey says at last, her voice brightening. "He and his wife just welcomed their first child. A little girl." Amanda feels a rush of warmth, of joy tinged with an ache of longing. "That's wonderful," she says softly. "He deserves all the happiness in the world after everything he's been through." Audrey nods, her smile softening. "We all do," she says. Quietly, "We fought so hard for so long. And we won, Mia, we won." Amanda takes a deep breath, letting the truth of those words sink in. It's still hard to believe sometimes. That the organization is gone, its leaders dead or imprisoned, its vast network of corruption and exploitation dismantled. That the truth, the whole ugly, impossible truth, is out there for the world to see. It hadn't been easy, the fight that had followed. The trials, the investigations, the endless media circus. Amanda and the other survivors had been at the center of it all, their faces splashed across every newspaper and TV screen, their stories picked apart by pundits and talking heads, but they had stood strong, united in their resolve. They had testified, advocated, fought tooth and nail for justice, for change, and slowly, painfully, the world had begun to shift. Laws had been rewritten, policies overhauled, new safeguards put in place to protect the vulnerable, to shine a light into the darkest corners of society. It was a start, Amanda knew, a small, fragile beginning. But it was something, a foundation upon which to build a better future, and build they had. In the years since, Amanda and her friends had thrown themselves into the work of healing, of rebuilding. They had started foundations, support groups, advocacy organizations. They had reached out to other survivors, other victims, offering hope, solidarity, a path forward. It hadn't erased the pain, the trauma. Nothing ever could. But it had given it meaning, purpose, a reason to keep going, to keep fighting. And fight they would, Amanda knew, for as long as it took. For all those still lost in the shadows, still waiting for the dawn. She reaches out, takes Audrey's hand in her own, squeezes it tight, feeling the warmth, the strength, the unbreakable bond of shared struggle and survival. "We did win," she says softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "But the fight's not over. It'll never be over, not really. There will always be monsters in the dark, always be innocents in need of protection. And that's why we're here. Why we'll always be here." Audrey nods, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Together," she whispers, "always together." Amanda smiles, feeling a sense of peace, of purpose, settle over her. The sun dips below the horizon, the first stars winking to life in the darkening sky. She knows there will be hard days ahead, knows the shadows will always linger at the edges of her mind. But she also knows she is not alone. She has her friends, her fellow survivors. And she has herself, Amanda Novak, the woman she has forged in the fires of adversity. A fighter, a protector, a beacon of hope in the darkness. She turns her face to the sky, letting the cool night air wash over her. And silently, in the depths of her heart, she makes a promise. To the lost, the broken, the forgotten, we see you, we hear you, and we will never, ever stop fighting for you. The end.